So, it's been a little embarrassing, and on this channel I like to do a lot of videos about the monsoon and rain and lightning and all kinds of things, and a couple of times I've seen a comment or two about, why is the pool green? Well, the reason the pool is green is because it was having some issues, and it's this ongoing fight in Arizona. When it hits 115 degrees for 3 days in a row, chlorine doesn't stand much of a chance, and when you've got pool equipment like this that is having an issue, well, it just makes it all the worse. So what I propose to do today is fill the vacant space left by that pool pump we just looked at. Now, in my past life, I worked in the swimming pool industry, and I did equipment repairs and things like that. That's something I've done in a long time, and it's kind of a pain in the butt because nothing ever fits exactly the way you want it to. But what you're looking at here is a brand new pool pump and motor. It's made by Mighty Niagara, and this is a 1.5 horsepower pump and motor setup. Kind of an unboxing here. It's kind of a picture of what it looks like on the side there. And I'm going to be installing this. So, stay with me. Okay, so what we have here, this pool pump was replaced already, and this was a 1-horse. It was an RS1000, basically a Hayward. It was a Leslie's brand, Leslie's Pool Supplies. Lasted a few years, but it was always trouble, and you could see it leaked from the inlet as well as, or from the outlet as well as the bottom. The seals were replaced multiple times. This was a troublesome unit from the start, but aren't they all? Here we have this Mighty Niagara setup, and the first thing you're gonna notice is that, oh look, fittings are different. This is basically a 2-inch fitting, as is the fitting that comes from my Jandy valve, aka the returns from the pool. And this one has 1.5 inches. So we're going to have to do adapters. Adapters are always fun, but in the end, we'll make it work. And hopefully we'll keep our blue pool blue. If you're wondering how it got blue, well, one of two things happened. One, I have a nosy neighbor who thinks that any green pool in the neighborhood is causing mosquitoes. Well, mine wasn't, but he thought it did, and it ended up with a nasty little note from the county on my door. So 9 gallons of chlorine later, it's blue. Well, we want to keep it that way. That's the way I prefer it to be. Anyway, let's proceed. All right, the first thing we had to do was figure out how we were going to pipe the new pump into the old plumbing. Issue here was the old pump had a fitting that would fit, basically let this skimmer basket screw right into here. Well, now we gained a good 4 inches here, and it's pushed the pump back. And that leads to the problem of, how do we get the outflow line to match up with the port on the pump? So originally I was hoping that I would be able to get away with a 22.5 degrees 2-inch fitting and be able to just follow the old path straight over and down with a reducer. Now remember, my old pump was a 2-inch. This is 1.75 inches, and what I've done is, or 1.5 inches, I'm sorry, I've taken this 1.5 inch fitting, and there's Teflon tape on the threads. This is a screw in, 1.5 inch pipe. There's a reducer into this 2-inch elbow up here, and then we're back into 2-inch pipe, 2-inch corner, 2-inch pipe, and then a 45 degree. And that should take care of the plumbing. I'm not going to do anything because I got to take this apart again because I have to do new wiring because my old wiring not looking too good. We've got cuts in the insulation, that kind of thing, so I've got some new wire. I'm going to run it through this conduit all the way up, and you see it terminates inside the timer box. I'm going to pull new pieces in and wire it up, and then we're going to get to wiring up the actual pump. And when that's done, we should be pretty much set, and I could actually glue these joints up. This is just a dry fit. Should always dry fit. I did glue some of the joints yesterday that I knew weren't going to change, like the 1.5 inches here in this pipe, and of course this pipe here. But these, there is no, and this reducer here, but there's no actual weld right into this part right now. We're saving that. So this is all dry fit. You should always dry fit. I'll show you. You can see it was a lot easier to do it with the old pipe, but, well, that's what you have to deal with old hardware. But what you'll see here is kind of funny. You know, measure twice, cut once. Well, I measured and it still wasn't looking quite right. Those are all little cuts and pieces cut to get it fit just the way I want it, because the big thing is when you look at the pipes, you want them to be as level and straight and free of tension as they can be, and you can see that. These are pretty darn level from this angle and from that angle. So next we're going to move on to wiring up the motor, which should be pretty simple. It's a 230 volt connection. The motor is already pre-wired for that, although we could do 115 if you wanted, but we're going to do 230 as delivered and as this is already wired for. See you in a bit. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these wires out one at a time, and I'm going to pull them through just like I'd pull through a network cable. I'm going to try to hook the new wire to the old wire and just pull it straight through the conduit here, all the way down. Make sure the power is off, so you're not live or anything like that. And the wire I'm going to use, went over to the hardware store. Original gauge was 14 gauge. This is 12 gauge wire. Now the one thing I'm going to note here is like I have some color-coded tape. And the reason I have this tape is I'm going to wrap one of these wires, actually the red wire, because they didn't have green, which is a ground wire. I'm going to tag that red wire as green so that anybody who looks at this knows this is a ground wire. The other two are black. They don't matter. They're hot wires. The first thing I'm going to do is take one of the terminals loose. Start with this one. Good, we got that one loose. There we go. We'll do these one at a time so we make sure we get the right wire. Then what we'll do is try to basically hook one wire to another. Although if we don't have to, we could probably force a new wire up there if we straighten it out. So took the other one free. As you can see, this is 230 volt. Here's the one hot we just did. Give that a little extra push. And here's the other hot wire right here. And they both go down into the conduit. What we're going to do is loosen this up. Pull this wire out, you see, just like that. And then we're going to take our lineman's pliers and make a little hook. Just like that. And we'll do the same on a new piece of wire and pull that one through. Okay, see what I've done here. I basically pulled the wire through. See how bad the old wire is. I just bared about maybe half an inch of the wire on each end. Did a little hook loop and took some lineman's pliers and clasped them together. I was able to pull the new wire through this conduit all the way up, and you can see there it is. And we'll do the same with their silver. All I did was bare these wires, do them in a hook, and just kind of clamp the hook down with the lineman's pliers and just pull through the conduit. So, worked out pretty well. Okay, I'm going to give you a little clinic here. I'm going to show you what I do with these wires, how I do the pull through. First thing I do is I go up about 1/2 inch. Then I take my lineman's pliers. I just lightly score the insulation. Just lightly. I'm not trying to cut the wire, I just want to cut the insulation. If you can see that. And then it should just pop right off like that. Then I take the end of the lineman's pliers and do a little hook. Just like that. And what I'll do is I'll take this hook and hook the other hook that I did the same thing on the other piece of wire, and then clamp them together so that they're tight and nothing sticks out. And then I can pull it through. So, here, hold on a minute. Here's an old piece of wire that I pulled. See, this one's already bared. Let's do the hook. This one's already a little junked up, but I'll give you the general idea. And you just hook them together like that, and then just kind of clamp them to each other. And on one side, and then you do it on the other. Like that. You see, that's not going anywhere. So the clamped, and then you just, when you get done, you just undo the one side and it'll come free. You can get a hold of it. Sometimes it's easier to just use a screwdriver or something. Spread that free. And you see, you're good. Okay, you can see bared about 1/2 inch of wire there. And these particular terminals on this thing, you don't have to do the hook thing. They have a little plate. You basically just slide this up underneath the plate like that and tighten it down. It'll be good. So let's go ahead and do that. I need to use a better screwdriver. Actually, this has a Phillips terminal. I should be using a Phillips. We'll fix that in the next, for the next wire. In the meantime, you get the gist. Just snug it up. And I recommend doing it one at a time so you don't mix the wires up and you know where they go. Okay, so we've got all these wires pulled. We've got the hot connection. Now we've got to do this ground. And this is where I was talking about the colored tape. We're going to take some of this green and wrap it on this wire, so anybody that comes in after me to do this knows that this wire is supposed to be a ground. I'm also going to twist it into this pair, this jumble of other grounds with a wire nut here. So get that going here. Remember, though, if you can't use the right color, tag it with what it should be. And green is supposed to be ground, and that's what I'm going to tag this wire because it's the wrong color. All right, that takes care of the connections in the box. Actually had to retwist the old grounds. They were kind of loose. I don't like them. We just put this one alongside, twisted the cap till it's tight, and we know we're good. So it takes care of all the connections inside the box. Now we'll just put a piece of green tape on there and we'll know it's a ground wire. And there we go. Just a little bit of green tape on the wire. They'll know this is meant to be into the ground. It's not a hot wire. We'll do the same on the other end. Okay, you're looking at the back of the pump, and what we've done is I fished the wires, my new wires, through the conduit, through the fitting that I already tightened down there, and here's the ends of the wires. Those wires have to go. You barely see it, but there's some spade terminals, and what I have to do is basically put some ends on these and slide them onto those terminals. There's 2 terminals there. You probably can't see them too well, but that's what's going to happen. Then I'm going to cut these wires, leave a little slack, put the terminals on, and button this thing back up, put the cover back on, and the wiring should be done. Alright, the last thing I'll mention, we've buttoned it up back here. You have to make sure this earth ground is hooked up too. And it's got a little terminal on top. Very important. And you've got a conduit. Make sure it works and it's all locked up and tight and no wires exposed. This is part of the reason the wires were in such bad shape, because for a while there they were exposed to the elements, and the insulation won't last, especially in UV. It just won't last for long. Now we're going to move on to actually gluing up the pipes, and that should be it till we test it. Let's just do a real quick test. We got the power hooked back up just to make sure we got our connections right. This thing should just kick over real quick. Don't run it too long though. We got no water in it. It's disconnected. Let's see. Perfect. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay. We've glued up the fittings. What I did was I started with the pump into the suction lines here. That one first. Then I went over to this elbow, started there, went to that straight piece. Then finally I glued the elbow there to the straight piece. And then in a simultaneous action, the other end of this pipe, and then on top of the 3/4 inch discharge line. Those had to be done at the same time and measure up. This is where all the cutting and measuring matters, because you pretty much have one shot to do it. What I used was, of course, I used OD purple primer. I always use purple primer. It softens up and cleans the surface. And then I used Wet or Dry. This is a fast setting and specifically made for pools and wet areas PVC pipe cement, so it's better than a normal PVC cement. Sets up faster. Still have 24-hour cure time before you put any pressure on anything, but still it's a much stronger pipe cement. And you can usually tell because it has that blue color, instead of the clear color. It's got that blue color to it, which tells you it's this stuff. So we'll come back and test out the pump and see how it runs as soon as everything's sealed up and dried out in 24 hours. See you then. Guys, this is the big moment. It's been over 24 hours since we glued the fittings, and we're going to start this pump. But before we do that, we got to make sure we got water in it. You never want to start a pump dry. Fastest way to burn up seals and bearings. So here it's going. And once we start it, we're going to check for leaks, weird sounds, all kinds of stuff like that. We filled it up. Time to hit the power. See if we did everything right. Pressure's coming up. Just about 10, which is acceptable. Getting water out of the system. Got bloop bloop going on over here. Have an aerator here. See, that's working, that's on. So far, so good. Let's check our pump. Look for leaks. On our fittings. See if there's any leaks here. And here. And here. I think we're good. Alright then. Well folks, this is what we were after. An operational pool pump. Doing about 10-11 psi, which is just right in line. See, it's nice and quiet. No leaks, knock wood. Doing a good job of filtering the pool. The last thing we did was paint the pipes. You say, wait a minute, they're still PVC, they're white. You didn't paint them. Well, I did. 97-cent can of white paint, white enamel. All we're trying to do here is we're not going for beauty. All we're trying to do is prevent these things from turning into ceramic, from being sunburned. UV, PVC is very UV sensitive. So, we've got its protection on it now. But it's been 48 hours since we really started tearing into this project. Really 72 if you go back to Saturday. But we've done it. Knock wood. The pool's looking a whole lot better. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope the information was informative and helpful. We'll be talking to you. Bye.